Welcome to the Anything Goes podcast. I am your host, Kombat AllStar, and today we're going to be talking about Survivor Series. We all know what happened yesterday. It was pretty epic. I'm kind of clouded and jaded by the ending because you know how if you have a really good finish to a show, you kind of forget all the bad stuff that happened during the show. So I'm basically going to run down exactly what happened on the card. And then I'll kind of give my opinion on things. So let's start with the first match. Brian Kendrick versus Kalisto for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now this one, my expectations for this one were a little tricky, I should say. I wanted the Cruiserweight division to go to SmackDown, but I did not want Kalisto to be champion. So I was hoping for a finish that would get Brian Kendrick disqualified, so Kalisto would win, but then the titles wouldn't change hands. So that way we have Brian Kendrick as the champion over on SmackDown, and we have the Cruiserweight division go with him. So that was my hopes for it. The reason being, Kalisto is just horrible. He can constantly botch his moves. Even the first move on the mat, first move of the match, he slipped on the rope. So it's all bad with this guy. I don't know what they're thinking. He's going to hurt himself or hurt somebody. He's come very close to doing both, and I don't know why he's pushing him. I mean, I do know why they're pushing him, because they want a new Rey Mysterio. They've been very vocal about wanting, that slice of Mexicana, their viewership to be there, and it's not there. And we all know it's not there because AAA, they're killing it right now. Lucha Underground's doing great. So there's not that need for someone to represent the Mexican people on WWE. So, and I mean, if you guys follow wrestling, that's why Great Khali had a career and stuck around so long, because he brought that Indian viewership every time he was on. So they didn't want to get rid of him, and that's, even though he sucked, they kept him around. So same thing with Kalisto, trying to make him into a new Rey Mysterio, but it's just not working. You got to get somebody else there. I mean, we all know Sin Cara isn't over, and then he had a fight with Jericho, so they're basically punishing him, so he's not going to be the guy. They offered Rey Mysterio the job, he turned it down. They went to Alberto Del Rio, he took the job, but then he got the whole drug thing. He failed the wellness test and he quit. So it's been hard for them to actually get Mexican talent to be a superstar on that show or in the business, at all. So I get the reasoning for it, but Kalisto is not the guy. It was a pretty solid match. The Brian Kendrick killed it. That Captain's Hook that he does is insane. It is so good. I loved how he turned it around. It really looks like it hurts, and maybe he was hurting him. I don't know, but it was an awesome match, and Brian Kendrick ended up winning because of a stupid interference. It was a stupid finish. It was a good match because Brian Kendrick made it a good match. Let's not kid ourselves. Kalisto did not make that match watchable. I feel like Brian Kendrick could have had a match with a broom and it would have been a better match. But the match was decent because Brian Kendrick, but the end was stupid. Baron Corbin coming and beating up both guys, and then Brian Kendrick winning because he got attacked first due to disqualification. So it was dumb. It was stupid. I hated the finish. And I think the Cruiserweight division deserved more than that. I mean, how messed up is it for one of the biggest stakes in the Cruiserweight division in a long time, since it's been revived, and then you have somebody who's not within the Cruiserweights just beat up these guys? I mean, someone who's tall, too. Baron Corbin is a huge dude, and these Cruiserweights are mad small. So you got somebody who's basically a giant coming into their world, beating them up and leaving. How disrespectful is that to the Cruiserweight division? I mean, Juventud Guerrera, La Parca, Jericho, the guys who built this division would, I don't know, maybe they're not as upset as I am about it, but I mean, seriously, come on, that's disrespectful in my eyes. Moving on, The Miz versus Sami Zayn, also title match for the Intercontinental Championship, and it had stakes with it. So The Miz being on SmackDown, Sami Zayn being on Raw. Whoever won the Intercontinental Champion was going to go to. So I was really, really hoping that the IC title would go to Sami Zayn, and then maybe he would rip off his shirt and go to SmackDown or something, because IC title, I think, deserves to be on SmackDown, but I don't like Miz at all. I mean, he is entertaining and all, but he comes off more annoying than entertaining to me. So I'd much rather see Sami Zayn over there working and getting his push. And him being on Raw, he got screwed again, and I feel like this is almost like Dolph Ziggler all over again. Miz keeps fighting people that just can't win. So, all in all, I thought it was an okay match. Nothing really to snooze at, so whatever. Now we get down to the core of the Survivor Series. My favorite time, the reason why I like Survivor Series so much, is the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. Now ain't gonna be as cool as Ultimate Warrior and Big Boss Man Survivor Series teams going at each other, but it was pretty epic. The New Day, the tag team Survivor Series was awesome. I loved everything about it. I hated the finish. I really thought that American Alpha should have won this one for SmackDown, but it didn't happen. I mean, SmackDown clearly has the better tag team, and then having Sheamus and Cesaro go over, who do they beat? The Usos. It's mind-boggling to me. I don't get that. Usos should have won. For their team, it would have been a nice push for them because they've been kind of getting crapped on these past couple weeks. But it would have been awesome if it was American Alpha versus New Day, and then American Alpha went over on New Day. But didn't happen that way. New Day got eliminated first, which was a big surprise. So, I mean, all in all, I liked the match a lot. I just didn't like the finish. And I would have preferred that SmackDown won. Team Raw. Not Team Raw. The women's Survivor Series was pretty epic, and it went how it should have. Raw should have won, and they won. I mean, they clearly have the better women. The match was pretty interesting. I don't think there was any downsides to this match. I love the fact that Nikki Bella got replaced with Natalya, and you guys know, I think it was on SmackDown. She got her teeth chipped. She got her tooth chipped. And, you know, it takes a little while for that to, you know, for you to get the crown to replace that, or, you know, whatever. So I had a gut feeling she wasn't going to be coming back for the Survivor Series, because it's not like a cap and go kind of deal. So I had a feeling she wasn't going to come back for the Survivor Series. And then they played up this whole thing where she got injured and someone attacked her from behind. And then, if you guys noticed, she was sitting there with her hands in her face and her hair over her head, so you couldn't see her face or her teeth. So clearly that's what's going on. Some personal things behind the scene sidelined her from the match, which is great because Natalya is a far better replacement than she is. And I'm sorry, I just don't like Nikki Bella. She's not good. All in all, like I said, did like the match, and the right people went over. So this is one of the matches I really liked, and I think the finish was good too. All right, so the next match was the guys, Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. And that was a pretty good match. It was worthy of main event. This match was pretty awesome. There were some spots in there where the Shield came back to beat up AJ Styles. What's his name? James Ellsworth eliminated Braun Strowman by hiding under the ring and grabbing his ankle so he couldn't come under the ring. And then Braun Strowman pulled him out and, you know, beat him up. So it was a good match, very unpredictable. It's everything that Survivor Series is supposed to be, you know. I was really hoping that somebody would defect to the other side, like past Survivor Series, but didn't happen. Still, it was a pretty awesome match. So, moving on to the final match in the main event, it was Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg. Now, this is an interesting match because I keep my ears to the streets. I listen to a lot of dirt sheets, a lot of different shows, and everybody was basically swearing up and down that Brock Lesnar was going to basically own Goldberg. We all know that Brock Lesnar has an ego, and you know the word on the street was there's no way he's gonna submit to this guy. There's no way he's gonna do the job for Goldberg. So when he came back, you know, he was gonna do this whole thing, and it was, from what I was hearing, it was gonna be more or less like Sting. You know how Sting came back. He was advertised for the video game first. He came back at WrestleMania, fought Triple H, and he lost. But he lost gracefully. So yeah, after that, he was still put in the Hall of Fame. And people in hindsight, you don't look at it as really a loss for Sting because it was still a good match. Still some cool spots. You know, DX came out and NWO came out. It was really good for nostalgia's sake. Although it would have been awesome if it was The Undertaker, but they played this angle up right and it was still interesting. So everyone thought it was pretty much going to be the same old story. Brock Lesnar was going to return. He was going to, wrestle a decent match with Brock Lesnar. And because Brock Lesnar's from that time, I think he would actually give him a decent wrestling match instead of just suplex him all match and sweat like an animal. So that's what everyone was basically hoping for. That's what I was hoping for. Not. You know what? I'll take that back. Not hoping for. I was really hoping that Goldberg would win. But I was hoping for a longer match. I'll say that. So they go out there, they ring the bell. It's intense. I get goosebumps because when we saw Goldberg before, he wasn't the Goldberg from past. You could tell, he's been a dad. He's a husband now, and you can tell the man's kind of softened a little bit over the years. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but when you're a family man and you got kids and a wife, your perspectives on life change for the better. And you can see that in his eyes. He wasn't that same dude. So when he came out tonight in the entrance, it was awesome because he looked exactly like he looked back in the day. His body, everything. He looked exactly how he looked back in the day. It was scary. He just had a white beard instead. Even his mannerisms and his eye kind of twitching and everything. It was classic vintage Goldberg. I felt like he just locked himself in the room for like 72 hours and just watched videos of him, like, while he was working out or something. So he looked amazing, got goosebumps. Security, they knocked on his door. It was intense. He came to the ring, and, from Jump Street, he just was owning Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar came in there, basically tackled him to the turnbuckle, had no effect on him. Goldberg pushed him out of the ring. Not pushed him out of the ring, but pushed him onto the mat in the middle of the ring. Goldberg looked very surprised and shocked like a big kid, and then he started laughing, and then started to get up. Goldberg speared him. And it looked like it hurt, like big time hurt, like like back in the day Goldberg hurt. I've always said back in the day, or I've always said period, that Goldberg has the best spear ever. Rhino's spear comes pretty close. I never really was a fan of Edge's spear, but I was always a fan of the lead up to the spear. Him in the corner with a crazy look, combing his hair combing his hair back, over his head and everything, and it was awesome. So I loved, the precursor to Edge's spear, but I didn't really like Edge's spear. And Roman Reigns' spear, I don't know, man. It's not good. It's not good. Even what's the name spear? Caitlyn had a good spear, and that spear was freaking awesome. That was probably the best spear. That was pretty close to the gore, to be honest. But Goldberg's spear is just amazing, and he hit the spear, and it was like flashbacks. And for the first time that I can remember in the last like maybe 10 years or 7 years or whatever that Brock Lesnar's been back, he actually sold pain. Usually Brock Lesnar gets hit and he just kind of shrugs it off and then does a little bounce in the ring or whatever. But this time he actually was holding his ribs, bending over. Paul Heyman was freaking out, which was like, oh my gosh, okay, that really hurt. Even Michael Cole said, oh my gosh, that hurt. Hurting Brock Lesnar. So he got up again, from holding his ribs. He kind of went to stand up again and boom, speared again. And they folded this man like an old wallet. It was crazy. So the crowd went crazy. And then he picked him up for a jackhammer. And before when he did a jackhammer, on Monday Night Raw, I believe. No, it was the Monday Night Raw before he did the jackhammer, and it just looked bad, and I was really worried that he wasn't going to be able to pull it off like he used to come Survivor Series. But that all went out the window. That jackhammer was picture perfect, and he hit it on him, and it felt painful. It felt painful, and much like the Captain's Hook that Brian Kendrick did earlier in the day to Kalisto. So that happened. And then he pins him 1, 2, 3, and it's over. And people are just in shock. And I haven't seen people in this much shock since the Undertaker streak was broken. But it was a happy shock. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? You killed my childhood. It was like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? This jerk off finally got beat. So it was awesome, and people lost their minds. I even lost my mind. So it was a great time. They put on a great show, and that finish was great because it's good for Goldberg because he's old, and he probably couldn't do work a full match. Not to mention, back in the day, his matches weren't all that long either. When he did have long matches, he had it with people that could think and could work, like DDP. I'm not even going to mention tall. What's his name? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Kevin Nash, because Kevin Nash is just, those matches were booked just messed up, but I digress. When he had long matches, there were people that were good, that were talented in the ring, like Chris Jericho, like I can't even think of a lot of people he had matches with. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin too. But I mean, typically, when he had the 2-year streak or the 3-year streak in WCW, he was undefeated. Most of those matches were squash matches, and then when the fans got behind him, he had regular matches with people like Hugh Morris and all that, and those matches were still squash matches, but with main event guys, and that's how he got the U.S. title. So this match was very reminiscent of that. It was very Goldberg-like. It was a quick match. He destroyed his opponent in short order, and it was awesome. So I enjoyed it thoroughly. I liked it because he's old. He didn't have to work as hard, and he was still able to look like $1 million out there. So loved everything about it. I'm not sure what they're going to do with Goldberg with Goldberg now. I mean, obviously they can't continue this feud with Brock Lesnar, although I feel like Brock Lesnar's ego and storyline would want him to continue until he beat Goldberg. So maybe they'll have a rematch. We never know. But it was a great match. I loved everything about it. His kid coming into the ring afterward with his shirt off and everything, and then all of a sudden getting stage fright. That was pretty cute. But man, all in all, it was a good pay-per-view. I did like Survivor Series a lot. I really do enjoy the Big Four. You all know the Big Four pay-per-view. Big Four pay-per-views is being Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, and WrestleMania. And for me, I always liked Royal Rumble first. And back in the day, I liked WrestleMania first, and then Royal Rumble. And then now, since I feel like WrestleMania's, I don't know what they're doing in WrestleMania, but WrestleMania doesn't feel like WrestleMania anymore. It hasn't felt like WrestleMania in the past couple years. So for me, I feel like the big shows are Survivor Series and Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble because there's always surprises, and it's really hard to screw up a Royal Rumble. And Survivor Series is because the Survivor Series matches are always awesome. I mean, again, it's hard to screw up a Survivor Series match. You can, but with so many personalities and so many people trying to get over and stay over, it's really difficult to screw up a Survivor Series match. SummerSlam, they always try to make it big, but I feel like SummerSlam always falls flat for me. I don't know what it is. Maybe the main events aren't all that great. Brock Lesnar against somebody is usually what they are. So SummerSlam, I'm not really a fan of. But I want to know what you guys are a fan of. So let me know in the description below what was your favorite spot in Survivor Series. What are some things that you agree with and disagree with? How do you think the matches ended? Do you think it was cool to see the show come back? Did you think it was cool to see Baron Corbin kind of mess up that match? Maybe you're a big Baron Corbin fan. I don't know. So let me know what you think about the spots, the finishes, everything that had to do with Survivor Series, and everything leading up to it. So like, subscribe, share, and as always, guys, until next time, maybe Random Girl will be with me, but so long.